Even as a manga reader, I gotta admit that this scene got me pretty hyped. Like, seeing Escanor just power up, summon his axe like Thor's hammer. I'm just like, this is pretty epic. Like, I liked it. It got me pretty pumped, even though I knew what was gonna happen. I expected it. I was pretty excited when what happened at the end of the episode. So let's get into that. The context of what Escanor just did to the two Ten Commandments. So he knocked them down. He put them down on the ground. Now, most likely he didn't kill them, but he just straight up attacked them and put them on the ground. And this really kind of shows that Escanor, he's not doing what a standard shonen would do. See, this is a tournament arc, okay? At the end of the day, when you look at this arc, what's been going on these past couple episodes, it's straight up a tournament arc. That's what it is. That's what almost every single shonen has. But Escanor's like, not happening. I'm not dealing with this standard cliches of a tournament arc. He's like, let's attack the big bads. He just straight up charges up and launches an attack right at the Ten Commandments and hits them. Now, he might not have killed them, but at the very least, he wounded them and put them on the ground, which is pretty spectacular when you think about how he just broke a standard cliche, because normally you would have the tournament arc go on for a good long while, and then eventually we get to the final villain, but that did not happen. Matches were still going on, and they were not concluded at all, so I appreciate that quite a bit when I read that in the manga, and seeing it in the anime, I know for a fact many anime-onlys are going to get pretty excited just to see Escanor do something like that, because let's be real here, when it came to the tournament overall, it wasn't really anything crazy. The only thing that we really wanted to see was, our characters go up against the Ten Commandments. That's really what we came here for. So, I mean, seeing how we cut out the crap, and we're getting to the main objective, I personally appreciate that, and I think many can agree with me or on the same page. But okay, so let's talk about Escanor's past for a second, because this episode, it was a lot on Escanor. There was details on his past, what he went through, and also where his strength level currently is at. So, Escanor, as you can see, he was kind of born with his power, and at a young age, he got into a fight with his brother, and he grabbed his brother's arm, and he snapped it. He snapped his brother's arm like a twig. And pretty savage, by the way. Like, oh my god. And you gotta imagine, with that day and age, with, not having really modern medicine or anything, that's probably gonna be bad. It's gonna make it to where probably the child can never really hold a sword or anything properly, just because of how bad the wound is. But regardless of that, what may or may not happen, Escanor, he had absurd strength since he was a very young boy. And his parents looked at him like a beast, like he was a freak. And everybody that, looked at him, checked him out to see what he had, they said he was cursed. And eventually, they're like, if you don't get rid of this boy, Escanor, your kingdom's gonna fall. And so, you had it to where his entire family and everybody turned against him to try to kill him, because they thought he was a monster, a beast that was cursed that would bring ruin to everybody. And so, eventually, he met this girl called Rosa that saved him and sent him to a faraway place, which is where he's at now. And eventually, he encountered Merlin and Meliodas, after many years and a lot of hardships after growing up, being by himself, isolated, thinking that he's a freak or, cursed or whatever, after many, many years, he finally met individuals that didn't look at him like that or weren't scared of him. They actually cared about him. And that's where he's been at ever since, and why he grew a bond with the Seven Deadly Sins, is because they were misfits just like how he was. So it really puts in perspective of where Escanor came from and how people view him. And also, I do like the little detail to when Gowther got inside of Escanor's head, you had this darkness and despair pop out where Escanor was deteriorating, which I like that, by the way. Oh my god, manga readers know what I'm talking about. But I mean, just like the way that was done, and then you have the scene to where, like, Merlin is putting him down and stuff. It's like, you'll always be alone, you'll never have anyone and stuff. But then he's like, I never, had Merlin. I don't need Merlin to love me or whatever. It's like, she is my bright sun, she is my hope. And you see him look up, and you see Merlin just shining as the sun, and you see how he buffs up in power. He used this mental image within his mind of Merlin to shine like a radiant sun, and that is how he buffed up. Now, what was stated by Gowther himself was that this power that he was using was not a proper transformation. Like, how Escanor normally builds up and beefcakes up is because of daytime. As it gets later into the day, he gets stronger, and then when at noon, he peaks, and then he goes lower and lower down until where he's at right now, where his weakened self is. But for a brief moment, if he, visualizes Merlin, he can actually buff up in the middle of night and create his, own mini sun within himself. It only lasts for a few moments, obviously, but it's an incredible boost of power. Now, I do want to point out that his boost of power is nowhere near his upper limit, okay? It's very obvious from the Escanor and Galan fight that Escanor was a lot stronger in that fight. But in this fight, he's around a 28k power level, and this is in the middle of the night. So he is nowhere near the strength he was when he was fighting the other 10 commandments. So that puts in perspective just how weak this, nighttime transformation really is. But even then, though, incredibly strong. What he did to the two 10 commandments was pretty ridiculous. Which I do want to talk about what they said. They said that Escanor's power is on the level of Estarosa's. Now, let me explain this, okay? Escanor, he grabbed his sacred treasure. Now, once again, just to kind of reinstate this, which I talked about at the beginning of Taizai's anime of Season 2, that a sacred treasure works like this. Let's say you have a giant lake, but if you don't have your sacred treasure, you can only access a few droplets out of that lake, which is your source of power. And in this case, even though Escanor, let's say he has absurd strength, if he doesn't have a sacred treasure, he can't access his entire strength. And so that is why his strength probably boosted even further beyond 28k, because of him wielding his sacred treasure. And so when they said you're at the level of Estarosa, it's because he was holding his weapon, his stored heat and energy inside of it. So if we're putting this on paper and kind of trying to break it down, in the middle of the day, if it's near noon, he's going to be a lot stronger because of his sacred treasure. So, let's say his cap is 50k power level, okay? Let's say that nighttime cap with holding his sacred treasure was 50k. And, his base power was 28k. Well, in daytime, obviously he gets a lot stronger. And because of the way day works, he's getting stronger and stronger. His power will always be a lot greater in the day. So, what we saw in this episode was nowhere near what his upper limit is. So when they were comparing him to Estarosa, that puts in perspective how crazy Escanor is as a person in the series. He is not a weakling by any means, and that's why they were freaking out. And so, yeah, Escanor is broken. So, yeah, welcome Anime Onlys to the broken Escanor, which, I want to say right now, one of my biggest concerns with Escanor's character when he was introduced and as a manga reader, I was always concerned that because of how powerful Escanor was, that he could be a walking plot device. That he could be someone that could get rid of all tension in the series. That was my biggest concern with his character introduction after seeing his strength and what he did to already 4 commandments. He already, if you look at it, he's already pretty much taken down 4 commandments. I mean, he did what he did to Scylla, and then Galan, and then now what he did to the 2 new commandments that we've got recently introduced to. So, I mean, when you look at all this, Escanor, he's got a body count. Pretty big body count. He's taking down the big bads of this arc like it is nothing. And, like I said, it's pretty scary, because Escanor, he's that strong, which that means that he's just OP, which, like I said, removes tension from the story. But I will be here to let you all know, as anime onlys and all that, and as a manga reader, that do not worry. Even though Escanor, in a lot of ways, he kind of is a plot device, it doesn't remove the tension of the story. The reason why is because he's perfectly balanced, because of his night and day. See, if he had his strength all the time in the middle of the night, obviously it would be completely busted, but he doesn't. And see, even his mini transformation, even though it's incredibly strong, it's not broken beyond the point to where nobody can touch him. So in this episode, we also have the conclusion to King and Diane's fight against the representatives of the 2 Ten Commandments, and their fight overall, pretty much the way it ends up in a very shonen way. For instance, you have it to where King, he's fighting, and he's wanting to protect Diane because, she is his friend, he loves her a lot, and also on top of that, he forces himself beyond his limit, using his true sacred treasure and all that of the tree, and he pretty much cannot do anything else. He's he can't move, defend anyone else after he uses his power. And so Diane is forced to protect him in that moment, and a lot of it's kind of like a Nakama speech in a way. There's a lot of what friends mean and stuff, and I mean, in a lot of ways that could be cringy for some, but it wasn't like the equivalent of fairy tale in terms of the way they did it, so I can let it slide for the most part. But the big point there is that Diane also got an upgrade in terms of power. See, she's always had her 2 golems that she's used already in Season 1 that were imaginary friends, and the only way she can make her golems truly strong is if she actually takes something within herself, her emotions and all that, and creates a real copy of someone that actually exists. For instance, King. And you see how King's copy is made, and I loved his goofy expression and all that, and the way he was able to take them down. It was very funny, because it just, like, he reminded me a lot of how, like, Saitama would be, how his facial expression was, and I'm just like, I had a good laugh with that. Just seeing how his, his golem went in, was taking down Balor like it was nothing. I'm just like, you know what, I like it a lot. But, okay, so the Diane stuff and the King stuff, it gets concluded for the most part, and Diane's like, you need to tell me what you know about me and what I know about you. Like, I need to know. I need to know the truth and all that, what our connection really is. So King most likely might have his heart-to-heart connection with Diane and his combo with her very soon in the upcoming episodes. Now, we also get some update status on what was going on with Denzil and all of that, and basically Denzil's like, hey, rally everybody, we need to go and capture Gowther, because he apparently was a part of the Ten Commandments, and that's pretty much what they're trying to do at the moment. That was kind of like a brief update status, nothing relatively crazy going on, besides once again hinting at the fact that Denzil, he has something up his sleeve, a hidden ace up his sleeve, and Dreyfus was also saying, am I growing soft, and he tried to attack them and kill them, which proves that, him spending life as a human for a very long time has affected his mental state, and he's no longer the normal demon he probably once was. But that's about it when it comes to this week's episode. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you enjoy this week's episode of Taizai? Did you hate this week's episode? If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.